15, 1993. We're located here on Tannerville Road, just north of the church, Martin's Church, at the residence of Milton Falb and his wife Esther over there. 76 years ago, something unusual happened in this territory. Milton might want to tell us a little bit about it now. First of all, I'm Ethan Lehman, and this is Milton Falb. His wife Esther's there. Craig Lehman is running the tape.
And we want a little beauty on the picture.
She'll get on sometime.
Okay.
Come see what.
But maybe I should start at the beginning. At a father-son banquet at the Kidder Mennonite Church, I believe it was 1989, Milton's son, Dean, was there, and he and I were talking, and he was saying that his dad used to have some kind of old tractor, and so we started talking and found out there was a Heider tractor. And I told Dean at that time, I said, I know where there's one sitting about 40 miles away. And he said, I bet my dad would be interested in it. So I went and talked with Milton and George, and it was a almost identical tractor that they had gotten years and years ago. So to make a long story short, George and I and Milton drove over one day. It must have been the fall of '89, I think. And we looked at it. It was sitting over Walter Watson's place over at Hanoverton, Ohio, on Route 30, about 40 miles away. It was in a building. It had been there for probably 10 or 15 years. It was sunk down in the mud. It was covered with all kinds of stuff. There was no radiator on it. The engine was stuck. We couldn't even hardly see it. But we didn't do much with it at the time. And then about in November, I kept thinking about this thing and thought, do we want it or don't we? And I asked Milton, and he wasn't sure, and George wasn't sure. So one Saturday night, I called Walter up and I said, I don't know if the other guys want it, but I do. He said, you're the first guy that says you want it, so we agreed on a price. And so from that point on, it was mine. I talked with Milton. He said he was interested, so we went halfway. When we went to pick the tractor up, it was December 1, 1989, I think, according to my records. And he says, you guys are lucky you called and you did. He says, I got another call 2 days later saying they wanted the tractor. And I thought this was just a likely story to make me feel good. So I didn't think too much of it. Then after we had the tractor home, several months later, I got a call from Dan Ellerding down in Jamestown, Ohio. He said, you got that Heider tractor, didn't you? And I said, yeah. And I said, well, how did you know? He says, I called him 2 days after you said you would take it. He said, I had told Dan about this tractor possibly about 1985, about 4 years previous to when we got it. And he always had intentions of looking at it, and he never did. But he just decided out of the clear blue one day he's going to call Walter up and tell him he'd buy it. Well, we beat him by 2 days. So this kind of tells you what can happen. And then, to make a longer story short, when I was talking with Dan, he said in the bygone years, he had picked up a real nice radiator for it as well as real good front wheels. So he sold those to us at a fair price to complete the tractor. We hauled it home on December 1, '89, and at that point, we brought it over here. Milton and I took the engine out. I took the engine to my place and worked on it. Milton did all the painting and the framework here at this point. So we'll turn it over now to Milton. He'll tell you his memories of what happened years ago.
Well, Ethan asked me to go along with him to see the tractor. I told him, sure, you bet I'll go. I was anxious to see a tractor like my dad's first tractor, the tractor that I learned to drive years and years ago. I was only 5 years old when my dad bought the tractor. But I can well remember when the tractor was brought in.
What year?
1918. But it's a 1916 tractor. And so we started working on it. It was a lot of fun. It took a lot longer than I expected to take it out of that junk heap and to restore it, but it was a lot of fun. But Ethan really did the hard work, the technical work, the motor, and he did a very good job. And it's quite a treasure. And I enjoy it a lot. I had to give up some of the other things that I had planned to do. I had planned to make grandfather's clocks for our children, but they can get along without it. We've got the tractor, and we're happy. Would you want to know a little about my dad's experience with it?
Sure. Tell him what else happened that year. About a car?
Yeah, you bought a car, you bought a tractor the same year. And
what car was it?
It was an Overland. a touring car, Overland. And I have very fond memories of that also. It was one of the first cars in the community also.
Was the tractor one of the first ones?
I think it was the very first farm tractor.
Okay.
And my neighbor, Mr. Gift, said that that's going to ruin the farm. He said that every time that motor explodes, it'll put a thump down on the ground, it'll pack the ground that you eventually won't be able to grow anything. And well, eventually they bought a tractor too then, but they didn't buy a Heider tractor, they bought a Case, a little more modern. I don't know just why my dad picked on the Heider, but it did well for him. It's a very simple tractor. It has a very simple transmission. It has a fiber wheel on the end of the crankshaft, the back end of the crankshaft. On each side of that fiber then are large discs, and you either engage the going forward disc or the backward disc. And it's just a shift of the shaft that makes the difference in forward or back. And then to change the speed, you pull the whole motor back. And it has a smaller diameter on the disc, and that's what speeds up your forward motion. So it has done well. The fiber caused some problems. It would last only several years. In fact, the records show that he replaced the fiber in 2 years after he had it. It cost all of $8.11 to replace the fiber. But that wasn't much now, but then it was quite a lot of money.
This was the drive fiber that he's talking about.
That's
this
right.
is what was on when we bought it. And the problem is the diameter gets too small this way and you can't use it anymore. So we've replaced it with something I tried to rig up. But this is what the original fiber was like, except it's about a 1/4 inch larger, 1/2 inch diameter total.
Yep.
So this is wore out.
Thank you, Ethan. It's made out of paper. And we considered getting one made, but it was quite expensive, so we made a wooden sleeve to put on, and then we tacked pieces of a scooter tire onto that wooden wheel, and it is doing the job. Of course, it wouldn't last long to go out and use it the way we used to use it, but in our case, it does the job very well. And so some of the guard tractors, I understand, are still using this type of transmission. But on heavier equipment, it isn't quite heavy enough to do the job. But it was a beginning, and I looked through my dad's account book, and he did a lot of work, custom work. He did a lot of buzz wood. He has a number of entries of buzzing wood and other things too that he did for people in the community. Aside from using it as a traction unit, but the wheels themselves had little lugs on them, only 1.5 inches long, just little spikes, and it was very, very weak and not having enough traction. It was all right so long as the ground was dry. It would do quite well, but when it was a little wet, it just didn't have the traction to do the job, to pull a two-bottom plow. But my dad got along with it quite well, and he bought the second Heider then, I think about 5 years later, a little larger. This is a 2-plow tractor, 916 they rated them. And I think paid about $811, according to the records, including the freight. But then they didn't have any dealers. They didn't have any implement dealers. They just had salesmen to go out and sell the tractors. And when the salesman found out, and when my dad was going to start plowing, and he got a large group of farmers in to see this tractor go out there and plow. And he had the misfortune of not knowing how to operate the thing quite well enough. And he had a mounted plow on it, and it was quite modern. Mounted plow, power lift and all. It wasn't hydraulic, but the job was done very well. And when he got to the end, he hollered, "Oh!" and the tractor didn't stop. And he didn't have the plow raised, and being a mounted plow, he couldn't turn with the plow in the ground, and he smashed into a board fence at the churchyard and smashed some boards. He replaced most of them. He left a few of them that I think 3 of them that he didn't replace the whole board. And every time I'd work there, I'd think of his accident there. And but he learned. It was the only time that he had an accident of that kind that I know of. But it was, of course, being the first tractor in the community, and it was, people all knew about it.
Okay, I'll try to show a little bit if you stand up where the mount or plow went on. We don't have the plow, we have part of the lift mechanism, but under here is a ratchet wheel. And here's this. And the plow would mount on here, and as that back axle would turn, these would turn forward, and it would lift some type of a chain and a bar out here and pick the plow up. Is that right?
That's right, yep.
And then to drop it, you'd have a lever, you'd hit it, and the whole thing would just drop. So you didn't want to be under it when it dropped. But it's one of the early mounted plows.
Yeah, right.
Is a forerunner of the 3-point, which didn't come until about 20 years later.
But,
Can you focus in on some of these pictures? I don't know quite how that's going to work. Are you still running?
Yeah.
Okay. Pictures.
is this right?
Yeah. These are pictures. Starting at the top is the way we got it. As the further down you go, the further was a progression. You see red and green paint toward the bottom. This was when I was working on my motor, mowing the motor at home. This was over here in Milton's shop when he was painting it. There's the motor completed, ready to go in, or very close. And this is different parts of the motor, the fan, the crankcase, etc. Over here on this side, Milton standing beside their barn over across the road there. That's the original wooden toolbox as far as we know. We already have the motor and the hood off there. Here's some more engine parts. Picture of Milton while he had primed the whole frame and had the red wheels painted at that point. Here I am in the shop, I'm working on the cylinders up there. And this is the engine, nearly complete to go in. And this is the tractor as it looks while it was running after it was completed. Okay, there's a lot of literature out these days, and this is a reprint. It's called Rock Island Farm Tools of 1920. And in here, they show the plow, 3-bottom pull type. There's a 2-bottom pull type. That would have been the size of Heider 916 would have pulled. That's what we have here. Okay, this is the Model C, the 1220. This would be one like Milton's father bought, their second tractor. They usually had a canopy over them and have a 3-bottom mounted plow if you'd opt to buy that with the tractor. Now this is the 916 as we have it. There's the picture of the mounted plow. There's the bar and the chain and the lift mechanism. You can see the lugs and the wheels are very unique. They almost look like ice cream cones. They're some type of a spiked lug. This shows the Heider tractor in the corner of a field. Whether or not it was practical to farm that close to the corner, I don't really know. It seems the weeds usually got the corners in my experience. But it's a 4-cylinder motor, 4 1/4 inch bore, 5 3/4 inch stroke. It's a Waukesha Model R. Engine has a Kingston carburetor on it. The transmission is a friction variable speed drive. We'll show you later on how that works. It's rated 916, 9 horsepower, and the drawbar 16 on the belt. Engine ran at 800 RPM. Now we'll just go through some of the, this is just a pull type gang disc that you could pull with it. This was a lister. These are all tools that Rock Island made. Heider was actually the name of the company that built this tractor. Rock Island had been looking to buy some tractor line, and after this Heider came out, it was such a popular tractor they could no longer make them fast enough, so the Rock Island company bought out the Heider Tractor Company, and that's why they were called Rock Island Heiders. The very first Heider tractors were Heider, then they were called Rock Island Heider. Then later on, they dropped the Heider name and just called them Rock Island. And the later ones look much like a McCormick Deering 1530 with an inline 4-cylinder engine and closed transmission. But here Rock Island had made quite a few tools then to go with their Rock Island Heider tractors. I believe almost all of these are pull type. Okay, here's a Rock Island. They made a gas engine, or several different sizes. Cream separator. Either, I think these were hand operated. I think some of them might have been electric. Yeah, that one's electrically driven. There they show a gas engine, a jack shaft running a cream separator. It says a practical tool for any farm.
Not anymore.
So this was a 1920 publication. These are cultivators. That's a disc cultivator with drags behind to level the ground after it was cut. These are 2-row cultivators. This is called a sled cultivator. You can see where it gets its name. It's got runners. Just drag that on the ground either with a horse or with a tractor. Probably with a tractor. These are hay loaders. Different sizes and types. Hay loader, hay rake. Rake and tedder all in one, supposedly. I just gather those up. Well, they don't blow away, they're all right. And here, I'll let Milton show what this is. You show a little bit what's in there.
This is my dad's account book. And he started keeping records when, I think right after he was married. He's married in 1907. And
What was your dad's name?
David.
Okay.
And here it tells about the gas and...
How much? Can you find any prices of what gas it was, or bread, or eggs, or anything?
Oh yeah, that's all in here.
Just go through and read some at random for comparison.
Esther, you read it. I've had a stroke and I have difficulty reading.
Well, there's a spark plug for $1, and I'm not sure just what all he's got in here. 10 gallon of gas at 22 cents a gallon.
This is 1920.
And so you can see here then, of course, are the mill and feed, different things that he had, clover that he paid $1.95 for, and so you might want to go to some of the other things. He had some tire trouble here, I see. He got a tube for $1.50, had it vulcanized and patched, and if you want to see some of the other things, he kept pretty good.
Here's a tractor page.
And you can see that over there.
1916, 17, no.
Well, here it says tractor delivered and plow, $740.
What's the date?
This is 1917.
1917.
April, May 11, 1917. Yeah, May 11, 1917, tractor and plow delivered for $740. There might have been other expenses involved.
Yeah, I think he had paid something down.
Okay, he had
Tractor contract.
Okay, he had paid $195 down.
So the total
It's $967.
Yeah, $967 for the plow and the tractor. Did he trade anything in?
No.
Okay, it was an outright
also
purchase.
includes the freight.
Okay, that was a freight from wherever Heider was made.
Yeah.
Where were they made?
Well,
Rock
originally-
Island, wasn't it? Illinois?
Rock Island bought them out, and they're from Rock Island. Was Heider from Rock Island?
Yeah, out there somewhere.
Okay, from somewhere out in Iowa, probably. But his dad kept track of everything, line by line. Little did he know, 76 years later, we'd be looking through his book. Makes us wonder what we ought to keep track of or not keep track of.
And then he has everything in as it was not itemized like we do now.
Yeah.
The gas and oil in with the rest of the...
Spark plugs, oils, whatever. And he always kept a total over here.
Did he do custom silo filling too?
Oh,
then?
yes. And I don't know, I think he started thrashing it in about...
Because there it's $31 and then $20 for silo filling.
Mm-hmm.
And there again, it's quite a bit of silo filling there and husking corn.
With having the first tractor in the area, there was a demand for belt power.
Yeah, right.
And so it was real easy to pick up custom work after people saw the advantages of it. This probably spent many days displacing a steam engine, because that was a common belt power back at that time. This, of course, wasn't near as powerful, but it was a little bit more maneuverable.
And most of this is just about the repairs and different things that he had written
They go
down
into
here.
receipts there.
So
That's some money.
there he had different collections that he made throughout that year.
Oh,
He
that-
got $84, and the total was $100. So that
I'm
was.
not sure about that. He has his church record here, Sunday school.
Oh, okay.
So we're
Nin-
getting.
He was
I
a
think,
treasurer.
yeah, that's.
1915 Sunday school receipts, that's what that
right,
is.
yeah.
Okay, so that's a different section of his book then. Sunday school expenditures.
Here's
What church would this have been?
Martin's.
Martin's up here.
So this is the household expenses now. 35
Butter?
cents for
Yeah, that's,
cream. And
Butter and cream that he sold.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's also butter and cream.
Something that hasn't been mentioned, the building right over here where Milton painted the Heider, he used to have a business back in the 50s of making wagons and other equipment.
Now it says drugs there, but that doesn't mean drugs like they do now.
Medication would be a better word.
Right, yeah.
I was looking for the index of all. You used to have bees, so you had bee supplies there. And coal. Must have. Well, you didn't have a furnace then yet.
Oh, yes. I think he did.
And I was looking for where in some of these other things.
Miscellaneous.
So it's just the whole book is, well, there you have the thrashing and fertilizer. You did a lot of custom up until about 1950. Didn't you do thrashing? Maybe a little longer even.
Being this is April 15, this is tax deadline date. I don't know what they would do if everyone came in with accounts like this nowadays.
Tax
was-
return, 35 cents.
Is that in there? Or
That's in here. That other paper isn't here. Is it?
No, these are just pictures.
And 10-gallon milk can for $4.80. There's some lime, about 6 ton of lime. Is that what it is? Surely it would be more than $21, wouldn't it? The
Six-
taxes.
So,
The tax
well-
for the farm, I guess, was only $89 then. Now it's.
this shows 12,160 pounds of lime, which would be 6 tons for $21. Would be about $3.50 a ton.
I didn't believe it when I saw it.
Well, I can imagine. I remember when it was a lot cheaper than it was now. Well, let's go over around the tractor a little bit. Just watch. I have an envelope.
Well, he may be in here. Oh, for that.
Want to look here?
The envelope is right.
Yeah, the tractor's the same age as I am. Same year, 1918.
That's right.
Load of something. Okay, are you running?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll show you the controls here. We'll just go around the tractor and show what some of the things are, then we'll try to start it here. One of the unique things about the tractor is the little steering wheel. It looks almost like a model. But if it'd be any larger, there wouldn't be room here when you get this close. This is a lever that is forward and reverse. In the middle is neutral. So once the engine is running, you push it forward, you go forward. Pull it backwards, you go backwards. If you're going back when you get excited, you go forward, it jerks forward, you come like this, you just go back and forth like that. And it's a little bit tricky to drive until you learn it. And then right in the middle is neutral, and that's where it has to be to start. This is a spark retardant advance. This is a throttle. Back is idle, forward is full speed. Go over on the other side.
They're showing how to change speed.
Yeah. This is for belt work. it takes the gear on the pinion shaft, engages it and disengages it. That's for driving, and that's for belt work. You can run your pulley without going anywhere. And this was a switch to turn it off. And open is on.
You can run your pulley in reverse.
Yeah, you can run. Yeah, variable speed in your pulley, go forward and back. This is a lever that changes your speed. When it's forward is a slow, and then you have, they call it a 7th speed because of the notches on here. You really have a very infinite number of speeds. As I'm pulling that back, now you go around to the side of the tractor, Craig, and I'll show you what happens. No, you can go along and explain what happens.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now he's moving the motor. You bring the motor back, and it has a smaller diameter on this disc, and that's what speeds up your forward motion.
So that's how you get your change in speeds on this tractor.
And then the reverse, it either engages this disc or the one on the other side.
This is reverse and this is forward. That's reverse there and that's forward. In the middle is neutral.
The simplest transmission on the market. And this is, of course, the fiber drive. It's actually a scooter drive now.
It's a Cushman rotor scooter wheel. And then before you start, you want to make sure it's a neutral, so you spin that. And this is the flywheel of the engine, and that's what used to be the fiber disc. This is the Dixie magneto. It's got a manual impulse. You have to click that in, and then once it runs and gets up to speed, it'll kick that out. You have a little simple water pump here, and this is where you add oil.
And they also use water with kerosene. One of the tanks had a division in it, and it had water and, well, actually gasoline in it. And then the other tank was for kerosene.
We just run only gasoline and don't worry about cooling with water.
And
running water in.
The control, this is the control. The amount of water that was put in was quite critical. You open it up to the point where it would start missing, and then you leave it at that. And this hooked onto the tank here.
Yeah, water would come in here. Then there's a stem that goes from here all the way back to the operator, and you can adjust the amount of water. This goes over to your intake manifold. This would be under vacuum, and it would then, depending how this was set, it would suck the water up into your manifold and help cool the engine when you ran on kerosene.
This isn't the original.
Have to do that to keep something working. I'm not sure what it was anymore. But as you can see, the packing on these was always a problem. This is seeping a little bit this morning, but not bad. It's tolerable. Name tag on it says Waukesha Model R, size 4 1/4 by 5 3/4, number 34457, date 7/20/1918. That'd be July 20, 1918 when this motor was made, RPM 800. As far as we know, this is very possibly the same engine that was in it originally. I mean, it would seem like it could be anyhow, although we don't know. Why don't you walk around back the other way so you don't run out of cord. Bull gears, then your pinion gears are here. The pinion gears and bull gears are in pretty good shape. And my theory is that the tractor never worked good enough to wear them out. I don't really know, that's just kind of a guess. Originally they had steel lugs. We got rubber tire treads, so it's a little safer to drive around and load and unload. Kingston carburetor, and your governor is up here, and this is your governor control. I'll proceed to try starting it, I guess. I have a gas valve under here you turn on. Set the throttle where you think it ought to be. Set the impulse in the magneto and try to start. Now I'll choke it for 1 or 2 pulls and then maybe it'll take off.
bearings down.
Has a unique teardrop shaped drawbar, which is very likely original. Reverse. All I have to do is pull this lever back to reverse, push it forward to forward. That was the only type of brake they had on it. No other brake originally. Someone put one on the floor. Yeah, just make a whole circle of everything around here.
That's a beautiful day to do
It
it.
really is. They forecast rain earlier. They said by this afternoon it might get here. Oh, yeah. See the track, you can see the front end bouncing. They have the whole front end suspended on a coil spring under there. Which makes it a lot easier. Coil spring is underneath there. Extension of the crankshaft, they cut a hole in the radiator to take the starter to the front. Instead of building the radiator up, they made a hole right through it. I'll show you how it slides. Pull it back, the radiator and everything slides right along with it. This is a shaft that drives sign made by Milton's brother George when we had it in the Christmas parade in Dalton, 1991, I think it was. We had pulled a float for the Dalton Historical Society. And since most people don't know what this is, he made a sign saying 1917 Heider farm tractor. Milton's father's first one was in 1917. This one is in 1918. But in many... And so usually if we take it out in a parade or something, we'll tie that on so people know whose it is and what it is. And the dog, of course, is a much newer model. Anything else you have to say, Milton?
Not necessary. I think you did a very good job in telling me about it.
Thank Craig for being their video photographer, whatever you call it.
Interesting to see how they come out.
Yeah, and I think that's all for now. We don't know. We've come a long way in the last 76 years, 75 years. We don't know what the next 75 will hold. Very few of us will be around to observe it from here anyhow.
But you know, when you go to shows and see some of the early tractors, this one was quite modern.
Yeah, it doesn't stand out like a lot of your other tractors will. Because it's an inline 4-cylinder engine, the wheels are in good proportion. Very common looking tractor. Just the transmission is unusual, and the fact that the engine slides backward and forward with the radiator. Yeah. The guy down by Millersburg puts a rubber tread on the front and the back. They do it quite often for among their own folks. So they're very willing to put it on at a reasonable price.
Nowadays they don't put this kind of tread on.
Yeah, these are the tread on the wheels are recaps for semi tires, I believe.
Well, I think you really have something to show for it, but from what it looked like when you first got it.
If it wouldn't have been for Milton, I would have never got it where it is, if indeed I would even bought it. So I would want to thank...
If it wouldn't have been for Ethan, I wouldn't have bought it either.
Oh, let's shake. Thank you, Milton. Let's stand in the sun. Okay. This is September 5, 1995. We're here in Kohler Road at Clarence Gerber's place. This is Clarence. He's my uncle. I'm Ethan Lehman. I kind of have a farm about 2 or 3 miles away. Running the camera is my cousin Craig, and holding Craig's hand is their dog.
Hi.
Zipper?
Dipper.
Dipper, okay. You'll see Dipper from time to time, I'm sure, like right now. Okay, this story goes back a long ways. Stay down. I guess we'll just start with the pictures here. Can you zero in on those?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My Uncle Clarence has always liked old things. He had gas engines. He has a steam engine back here, a 1965 Baker steam engine. And as I got to know Clarence through the years, he used to tell me different times the different vehicles they used to have. He used to have Chevy cars, International tractors. He said the first tractor he had was a Moline tractor, and I didn't know anything about it. So he showed me some of the original books he has on them. And this is a picture. Stay away, pups. When Clarence was 11 or 12 years old, he's driving a Moline tractor exactly the spot where this one is, or very close. And that's an old picture that's been reproduced. And so through the years, we had looked at several different tractors in hopes of buying one to restore. We went down to West Virginia to Fraser Bottoms to look at one, and we didn't end up getting that one. We went up north here about an hour and a half and looked at one maybe 7 years ago and put a bid on that one and didn't get it. Then a friend of mine from Jamestown, named Dan Ellerding, came up with 3 different ones, and so I went down and looked and picked one out and decided to purchase one. And this is the day that Dan brought it over to my place, and that's Clarence, and this is the tractor we first got it. And there's Dan Ellerding again, there's Clarence and his friend that helped bring it up. And this is in the restoration process over at my place. I believe we're either we're putting the engine on or taking it off there. There's Roscoe, my son, and there's Clarence. And this is a poster I made. We take this along with the tractor to show it's a Moline Universal 916. These pictures were taken in 1992 as we purchased them. This picture was taken in 1932 or 1933 when Clarence was 11 or 12 years old. Okay, Clarence, why don't you tell them some of your first recollections of the tractor?
It's,
I just hold the, if you want to.
we had moved off the farm for 2 years, and we came back, and our neighbor, Jacob Zucker, bought himself a new tractor, and then we bought this from through the international dealer, and I started to drive it at the age of 11. We mainly pulled disc and harrows with it, no plowing for a while. Then when I became a senior in high school, I started to plow with the tractor.
What year did you get it?
In 1930, either 1929, so we'll call it 1930.
Okay.
And we had some trouble with it, fuel line trouble, or dirt in the gas line. That made problems that we finally solved them. Ignition trouble, we had to get a mechanic out periodically, and finally another mechanic put on a coil instead of the original coil, and it worked real fine after that. So.
Okay, that's a little bit how you got it. Now, how did you get rid of the tractor? That'll fill in between as we go.
Then in 1940, we bought a Farmo A, and we traded the tractor in on this Farmo A, got $65 for it, and it was cut up on the barn bridge here for scrap.
And one of the original wheels, the cement weight, is over there, sitting by a fence post still, 55 years later.
That's
40
right,
to
it's
95,
still
55. I went and looked at it.
Should we go get it later?
Yeah, we'll get that later if you remember.
And like you heard in the house, my wife's dad had one.
And what was his name?
Amos Steiner.
And he lived where? Who lives now?
Roy Steiner. Wait a minute, no, Steve Steiner.
Steve, okay, they're in the Sevenson's farm on Arnold Road.
Or Manel Neuenswander.
Yeah, it used to be the Manor Neuenswander farm.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where that one was.
That's where that one was, and they, I believe, threw a rod, broke a rod, and my wife's brother used to say, I could take you down the pasture there where we buried this cement wheel on the other side.
And it's still probably there, but nobody knows where it is
Yeah.
anymore. The knowledge died with the person.
And we did some belt work with it, like running a buzz saw, cut up firewood. For corn husking thrashing, we never used it for that purpose. Mainly, like I said, harrowing, disking, harrowing, and plowing, those three main items. We did drag some logs with it one time, and my great uncle built a house, and before he could build, he cut some logs and had
Who was that?
Johnny Steiner come in and cut them up.
Okay, who was your great uncle?
John Moser up
Okay.
there where Ivan's house is, you know. And the sawmill operator, which was John Steiner and their boys, they had a Huber row crop tractor, heavier than this one, bigger than this one, well, bigger than the one we had, and like young fellows are, we're dumb sometimes. We hooked drawbar to drawbar, and all we did, the Huber dug in and I dug in. We didn't get any place. Didn't improve much. And another time, I backed into a furrow with the front wheels when I was backing up, and the rear end went on up. And instead of being quick instead of thinking to pulling the clutch, I simply let it go up, and I dropped off the tractor, and then I went to the front end and choked it. So when the thing was stopped, it was up high enough that I had to reach up about like this to get grab the bottom of the back wheel to pull it down again. So there's really no danger at that point. It was just one of those things that this tractor is light in the back end. If you back up, put a block behind the front wheels, you can just raise it up. In fact, a bit ago, when I was turning around here, I dropped the wheel in there, and backing up, it just went like this and went down again.
Tell them about how you used to harrow when the weather was cold.
One spring, it was fairly cold to disc, and I jumped off a seat and walked along the tractor. Now that's entirely anti-safety.
Had the disc hook there with the gangs behind him, and he was walking here. if he would have fallen, what would have happened? There'd be no story to tell today, probably.
Yeah, we do strange things sometimes. And of course, over the years, it sometimes works like this. What you have, you don't always want. You want something newer, and that's the case here too. Till after we had it scrapped, 5 years or so after it was scrapped, I wished I'd have it. So hindsight is always seen better than foresight.
Okay, we'll tell different things as we go through the course here. But let's go over on that side and explain the different controls on here.
All right.
Well, first of all, come over this way. This is a Moline 916 tractor, developed 16 horsepower in the engine, 9 on the drawbar. It's a 4-cylinder gas engine, 3.5-inch bore, 5-inch stroke. Runs, I think, 1,200 RPM or 14.
It'll go up to 1,800.
Okay, they're rated 1,800. And it's got 2 front drive wheels and 2 sulky wheels back there. Now explain what the different controls are.
This is a clutch. There is what this is the same thing as pushing the clutch in on the other tractor by your foot. And then this is a gear shift. This is forward gears, and that's reverse. Just 2 speeds.
Yeah, 1 forward and 1 back.
And then here is a brake that helps you turn, pulling it back. Operates the left brake, helps you steer it. The right one pushes that way. The right brake holds, and it helps you turn it to the right.
It has individual brakes, but you can only apply one at a time, either or.
And here is a differential lock. If you run into a soft spot that one wheel starts to spin, you pull this lever, and they both turn at the same time together.
This is an articulated frame tractor. You have a pivot point here and a pivot point right here. And so to steer it, that gear goes in this pinion here on this rack. That pinion gear is in the rack. You just simply turn it like that, and that has to follow where this leads. And because of that, you have this unique linkage in here. All these linkage points has to pivot. Okay, now pull your clutch or something so you can see how they work in there. See, every one of those linkages has a pivot point there so it can be articulated.